So actually, I'll just make a very brief comment before we start. So we're going to meditate on the sufferings of the lower realms for the rest of this time. I'll actually say, like, I was thinking about this, that, like, what I was thinking about, just as this is my own preface, so to speak, like a preliminary comment, is that, what I was thinking about is that this topic is, from a Buddhist, from the point of view of Tibetan Buddhism or Nalanda Buddhism, tradition from Nalanda, in the tradition of the Lamrim, this topic is supposed to be upsetting, right, or disturbing to meditate on. And I was thinking that, I was actually just thinking about this, I'll just do a brief preface. Like, I was thinking about how, let's say it, like, I guess I'll say it this way, like, when I'm not, my job is a psychologist, right, and like, oftentimes I think like, oh, we want to have, let's just say it, from a Western perspective, actually, even Western psychology talks about emotional regulation a lot, like wanting to keep your emotions kind of balanced, and keep your mind not too extreme. And so I was thinking, oh, this is a cultural difference, actually. Like, Tibetan Buddhism, they don't care if you freak out. Like, it's like, there's a view, like, if you're meditating on Lamrim, like, actually they praise that. Like, if you read, like, stories by lamas, they'll describe, like, so-and-so went and they were meditating on this topic and they completely freaked out. And they, like, ran off to the mountain and meditated or something. They say, oh, good. Whereas in our cultural context, we want people not to freak out too much. Like, we don't want people to be too blissful or too upset. We want them to kind of, like, be in the middle. Tibetan Buddhist practice, they find to freak out and then become blissful. That's their idea, actually, so it's more extreme. So I guess I just say that one is I was just sort of reflecting on it myself, like in terms of this topic. Actually, what was it? Last month, I think it was, I was teaching somewhere else, teaching Buddhism, and somebody was saying that, like, when they would meditate, they would start crying. If they meditate on compassion, they would start crying and really cry intensely. They said, like, they felt like that was wrong. I was like, that's, in other words, like, I can see how from a Western cultural perspective, it's like, well, we want to stay, like, even or something. Of course, like, in Buddhism, actually, the Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 verses has a bodhisattva called the always crying bodhisattva. He could see the suffering of others so much that he was just weeping all the time. So his name became always crying. So I guess it's just like a cultural difference or something. So anyway, I say all of that to say, so it's up to you. It's like if you start to feel like it's too intense, you can like stop or distract yourself or something. That's up to you. Like you have individual freedom. So I don't want to like, I want to go through the meditation as it's traditionally done. I'm not going to like, I don't think it would be helpful to pretend it's something different than it is, right? So we're not going to like water it down. But if you start to feel like, oh, this is too much for me, then, I'm going to like concentrate on something else or go take a bathroom break or whatever you need. The goal isn't to like, the goal isn't to like try to freak you out or something like that. Does that make sense? So in one way it is to try to freak you out, but not entirely or something. So take care of yourself. Does that make sense? Is that okay? So the way this is presented in the Lamrim, in the middle-length Lamrim, at this point, having gotten through that much of the preliminaries, we would visualize, then we imagine the Guru comes to the crown of our head, kind of up above the crown of our head, and we request the Guru's blessing to realize this topic, to have success in our meditation in order to realize this topic. And the Guru is like pleased that we're meditating on the Lamrim. So the Guru like smiles at us. And from the Guru's body at the crown of our head, 5 colored nectar. White, red, yellow, blue, green. Pours down into us. It's like light rays and nectar. Totally filling our body with blissful, like rainbow wisdom nectar, and blessing us to be able to have success in our meditation for the welfare of all sentient beings, including, ourselves and all others. So then the first actual this one is really a contemplation, is we briefly contemplate on like kind of why do I need to meditate, why should I meditate on the suffering of the lower realms? And we may bring to mind that all the great Buddhist masters of the past, including, for example, the great Indian master Nagarjuna advised every day, he said, to meditate on the sufferings of the hell realms, the hungry ghost realms, and the animal realm, in order to help our Dharma practice. So now it's like to give ourselves encouragement or enthusiasm or energy. We may say, well, so what are the benefits of this? And the Lamrim points out, one is by recognizing, right? If I recognize, each of us think like this, if I recognize that I, myself, can fall into lower realms, suffer horribly at any moment, then one benefit is I'll be less prideful and arrogant. It'll help me to cultivate a kind of spiritual humility, a genuine humility. Also, by understanding how the sufferings of the lower realms are just created by bad karma, right? By actions done with negative motivation. Then by meditating on this topic, I'll be inspired and energized about abandoning negative states of mind and abandoning non-virtuous actions. There's a great benefit for me, right? We think there's a huge benefit in meditating on this topic, because it will help me to stop indulging in negative habits of kind of mental afflictions, negative habits of bad actions that harm others and harm myself. This will also inspire me to practice virtue. Right? The more I meditate on this, then more naturally, not like some forced or fake thing, but naturally from my heart I'll want to do positive actions, motivated by love, compassion, patience, and so on. Meditating on the lower realms is incredible inspiration to be more patient. When we understand how the karma of anger, rage, and hatred creates so much suffering, then I'll really be energized to practice patience. Not only that, right, but also by meditating on the suffering of lower realms, 3 lower realms, and understanding that they're naturally part of the samsaric experience, it helps me to generate renunciation, aspiring to liberation from samsara. If I don't face suffering, then I won't develop renunciation. I won't develop the wish to achieve liberation, to achieve nirvana. So I meditate on this, then it helps me to turn my heart towards liberation or nirvana. Another benefit is by understanding the suffering in lower realms, right, understanding how I could suffer in that way, it also helps me to then develop empathy and compassion for others, to develop kind of a deep compassion, and even to develop bodhicitta, the altruistic wish to achieve enlightenment in order to benefit others. So there's so many benefits to meditating and suffering all around. So we kind of contemplate those for a couple of minutes, cultivating this feeling of enthusiasm, that this is something beneficial, this is something helpful, something inspiring. That these meditations are an indispensable part of the practice of the path to enlightenment.